Welcome to Big
and Small.
Podcasts. And I'm Jason Shields. I'm big.
And I'm Marit Gabrielsen, and I'm the tiny one.
Yeah. So today we're going to have a wonderful morning coffee with a great doctor of chiropractic, Eirik Gabrielsen, and one of my really good friends and European champion competitors in jiu-jitsu, Rutger Custers. So we're going to have a little bit of a chat talking about mindset, happiness, spirituality, and maybe even a car crash. We'll see. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us.
So good to have you. So we were talking a little bit about mindset questions, and you brought up something interesting. What was that, Rutger?
Yes. I'm wondering, I have issues with my confidence, so I compensate by being arrogant. But being arrogant, I find, has got me to a point where now it's stopping me from moving forward. It's not giving me any good feedback anymore. It's just basically, instead of saying that I can do good things, my head goes to, oh, but this guy is not good. This guy he doesn't have it. So therefore I'm okay. Instead of thinking, no, my technique is good, my movement is good, this guy might be good as well, but I trust myself instead of building other people down. So I was wondering, how can I build my confidence without becoming arrogant?
That's a really good point of growth. The quality of your life is always dependent on the quality of the questions that you ask. And people wonder, well, why is that the case? Well, because bringing awareness to something means that you're ready for change. If you're unconscious or asleep, or you're not even looking at it, then you're not ready to work through it. So we should first start talking about, why is arrogance not necessarily the greatest emotion to power your activities with? And also, what's the difference between arrogance and confidence? Because in many people, it may even look the same on the outside sometimes, right? Arrogance, the way I've found in athletics or in business, often is related to pushing other people down and devaluating what they can do, what they have, what they can contribute. And that immediately in a group setting will isolate you, so that you're not able to use your peer group, or not able to use the qualities and attributes that people can contribute to you, which makes you weaker, because we're always stronger in a group than we are individually. I mean, look at the SEAL teams. It's called SEAL teams for a reason, right? Any company, businesses are called companies because, in general, if you're a group of people with attributes and you're all putting your attributes in as a company of fellows or people, you will move forward faster and better. So a lot of people think that, pounding on your chest and showing your six pack and all that can be arrogant. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a celebration. The distinct smell of arrogance is the smell of isolation and aloneness, actually. So when you understand the value of connection and cooperation, then you start asking yourself those questions. And that's something that I see in you. So confidence, true confidence, is a process of understanding your own self-value. Now, what does that mean? It means being aware that your idea of the way things should work in the world may not necessarily be the way things work in the world. Because very often, arrogance comes from, you think, well, it's going to go like this, like this, like this, and the slightest deviation from that, then, oh, well, I'm shit. You devaluate yourself, but in order to build yourself back up again, you have to push everybody else down, because a person with low self-esteem will almost always have to push everybody else down in order not to feel overwhelmed. Because internally, as your testosterone as an athlete works, you're not going to want to be the omega dog, not even the beta dog, the omega dog. You want to be the alpha dog, right? When you're in your competition, even if you're in a group of other alpha dogs, you still want to be one of the alphas always, right? So there's this awareness of inherent self-value that often only happens when you realize, number one, because you didn't project perfectly doesn't mean that you're valueless. Because things didn't go the way you thought it would doesn't mean that you were wrong as a person. Your calculation may have been wrong, but then you readjust your calculation and move on, and that you're allowed to make mistakes, right? That is a chain of realization that you have to go through. Very often when somebody is in love, they will then be able to see their value reflected in the other person's love and care for them. And that's why it's so addictive with relationship and romantic love, because there's a period when you're completely thrown into love that you actually, in a way, lose your sense of self. So you don't even have to relate to your self-esteem or lack of self-esteem. But then when that person suddenly doesn't give you what you need to feel like a god or feel fantastic in that romantic relationship, then your self-esteem falls. And then you get back into the whole arrogance cycle and pushing yourself down and pushing other people down. It's a weird cycle in general. So the fact that you're asking this question says that you're ready to change. The fact that you understand that you're not necessarily getting what you want from your arrogance means that you're ready to start looking at the things that you could get from being confident. And it actually is something deeper. It means that your own real self-esteem, your value as a person, which what confidence is building that internal value, is changing and growing. And it's beautiful. And it's also a sign of massive growth. So it's a sign of winning. It's a sign of taking a step forward, because Michael Jordan walks in with an infinite source of self-confidence, because he's over and over and over proven to himself, more than proven to everybody else, proven to himself that he can. Same thing with Tiger Woods. When it's time to step out there and take that long drive, he knows he can do that, right? He walks out with confidence, and he's not focusing on the few times that he's not able to hit far, not able to hit accurate. He's focusing on those thousands of repetitions. And now you're saying, oh, but maybe I have to get thousands of repetitions in competition now. I don't have time for that. No, all it is to take a step forward and realize that you have had thousands of repetitions of every technique in training. You are ready to take that step forward. Does that make any sense?
Yes. Yes, it does.
But that means that what you're saying is that confidence is that you have faith in yourself, that you know that you can do this, that you look at the facts in yourself and not from what people are giving to you with attention and I don't know, whatever thing you get on social media or whatever, but you look at actually what you are and who you are and what you have done, instead of relying on other people to prove to you that you are worthy. Very,
very right. And interesting what you said. I like the word faith in yourself. Now, people who have contact with their emotions and their emotional range, and they do have contact with faith, the emotion of faith, can use that very easily in order to have faith in themselves. But some people don't have faith in a way. They don't have contact with their emotions, so that they have to look to see, where was I right? Where was I right? Did I get the repetition? Did I get the repetition? Was it a good repetition? And they build their bank of confidence and self-esteem over the hundreds and hundreds of repetitions that they get in the gym, for example.
Yeah, but then you go back to the facts and you look, okay,
Yeah.
you can ask yourself the question, have I done the work?
Exactly.
And if you're an athlete or a mom or a broker, have you done the work? Have you had your repetitions? Because we talk about your repetitions are in everything. We talked about to see your wife the other day, and we said, but you need repetitions now.
Yeah, that's it.
You need repetitions on doing the meditation or doing the program or doing you are betting money or doing the repetition with a Toriano pass. You have to do the repetitions in everything. So if you can ask yourself the question, have I done the work? And I have done the repetitions. I have prioritized right, I've done everything,
Yes.
then you don't have to have the emotions of faith, because you
Exactly.
have the facts covered.
Yes. And if you're a very powerfully emotional person and you have contact, you can just give yourself faith. You know, some people are not able to do that. Many men have a little bit of challenge with contacting their emotions. You know, we joke about the 3 major male emotions, you know, we don't have to name them, but you know, that's right. And who you are determines how well what you do works. Meaning that if you, and what do you say, who you are means how you see yourself to be, right?
Could I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Does that mean like a good way to recognize arrogance is that if you put value on what other people are doing instead of yourself?
Yeah, it's very
You know
good.
what I mean?
It's
like if you compare yourself to other people,
yeah, well,
it's a negative value. While if you work with your inner values,
I like what you said there. Yes, but arrogance is even more insidious. Arrogance is looking at how horribly shitty everybody else is, and not just other people's values, because it's arrogance. You could turn it around and build everybody up on a pedestal. That is an outside value, but arrogance is like really just making the world crap around you.
yeah,
It's like using.
I might confuse the word value.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
So I mean more like you're saying, I'm better than him.
Yes, yeah.
That, you know, yeah, like you're
exactly
building like you add and subtract
yeah
from other people.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
even say subtracting. It's in a way, and it's very destructive in that way that you then live in a world of shit. You live in the world where people are horrible and they're not following up and they're weak and all of that. And I want to surround myself with love and light and strong people. And I would love to have a strong opponent. I want to have a nemesis. I want to have a person who's godlike, because I know I will match them and give them battle. I want to be defeating that person that's amazing. I don't want to be stepping on ants. I don't want to be stepping on kicking the unworthy. Right?
It just popped into my head now. Do you think because I'm thinking in my everyday life, or what I see in other people and how I think they and myself are being arrogant without knowing it. Could be that, okay, you have someone that has this beautiful house and they have success in the career, but then, and you don't have that necessarily. You have, say, 3 kids and a husband, but you don't have the house that you actually would like, and you don't have the job that you would like to have, and you see other people having it. But then you go, well, they don't have kids. Could that be one of those things that you kind of, instead of understand that they made their choices and I made my choices, that you kind of, but they don't do this, or, well, they smoke, or they drink, or they do this, and I don't. So, because I'm better than that.
Yeah, exactly.
And to push them down, so although they have accomplished more that actually are things that you also wanted to accomplish, you're trying to kind of make yourself, well, a little bit better.
Yeah.
In a way, or
that I made my decisions because I'm a good, nice person, and then they're probably unethical, horrible people, and that's why they made a different decision, and they're egotistical, and I'm not having what they're having because I'm noble.
And at least I'm not worse. I'm at least not worse.
Yeah, of course.
Because although my life is not as good as I wanted it to be, I made good decisions, and I stuck in it. And I'm trooping through, and I'm a hero of my own story.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And we should be the hero of our own stories. It's not that, right? Because we're all telling a story with our lives. You know, I had this thing that I just don't even want to participate. I don't want to just tell a story. I want it to be a prophecy. You know, you should look back on your life and say, damn, that was nice. That was a prophecy. I made that happen. Wow, that was us. Woo, nice. But what you're saying is very good, because it's a subtle thing, because there's an evaluation. So perhaps somebody's valuing being a helper in society, in the healthcare industry, for example, more than being a person who's driving a Ferrari. And another person may really love Ferraris. It doesn't mean that the helper is more spiritual than the person driving the Ferrari. It could be that person who's driving Ferrari is helping in some other way. They're inspiring other people and doing other things. You know, the outside trappings of something doesn't make it more or less spiritual or more or less right. You know, are they bringing more suffering into the world or are they not? You know, and what you're saying there, Marit, is 100% correct. You know, it's if you having to judge other people as evil, bad, or wrong, or less than, you're basically breaking them down in order to feel good about what you have. Rather, just allow them to be them and look at what you have and be very happy and content, right? That's
but I
the
think
path.
that's what's sort of the issue,
Yeah.
because we're not sticking to it, and we don't understand that the decision I make will have some consequences.
That's also
I
true.
don't think we don't think about it, because when you're 20, do you actually think about what that decision will mean in 10 years?
Well, that's why people need to listen to this podcast, because we're a range of ages here right now, and we're people who are constantly working on being more efficient, achieving things for ourselves inside and outside. So if you're 20 or 30, you need to be listening to this podcast, because we're giving you the secrets, man.
I think you need when you're 30, 40, 50 as
Yeah,
well.
Or 70.
Or
70.
70. Yeah, right. We do have a reader. We have an
learn.
American, and he's in his 70s. He loves us.
But
So-
that's the thing that I think we're forgetting that. Okay, you're 20, so you decide to become a nurse, or you decide to not study, and then you're 30, and you're like, but where's my house? Where's my husband? Or where's that thing that you thought you're gonna have when you're 30? And you don't understand that decision you actually made when you were 20. So I think kind of we forget that, and then I think we get to compensate. We start with the arrogance thing, and I think many of us, I know I do it unconsciously. It's just happening in your head, and it just rolls around, and then you end up just feeling terrible and miserable and self-hating. And that's why I love the question Rutger had today, because it's, for him, it shows really growth. We talked about arrogance for so many times, that we were in the Europeans no-gi, and you turn your back to the opponent. You were wrecking that guy, but you turned your back. You said, you don't turn your back. You never turn your back. And I didn't.
And I could not look at that fight and realize that I actually turned my back on my opponent.
You had also like Eduardo Tetareos, like just our sensei, like sensei of Jason again. You know, he says, "Dude, you turn your back, dude." You go, "No." Well, it ended up you paying for food for 12 people because you lost the bet. But
I said I was going to do it.
Yeah, we love that. We love the
Yes,
food, right?
yes.
But dang, dude. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is interesting.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the issue I'm noticing, and I think it does not just apply to my jiu-jitsu. It applies to my everyday life and everything.
it's everywhere you are.
Everything I am, I'll bring myself.
Yeah.
So my arrogance problem is not a jiu-jitsu problem. And I've never enjoyed going to school, because if stuff doesn't work the first time, it's probably that thing. It doesn't work. It's shit. Because again, I don't want to break myself down because I have low confidence. So my arrogance pops up and goes like, nah, this school, this is dumb. This doesn't work. People that go to school, like, name one famous person that went to school. It's like, it makes no sense, but it's very interesting to look at it. So I was wondering as well, because would you say then envy is a form of arrogance, or is it the other way around?
Envy is more of a lack of ability to believe that you yourself can create. So if I'm envious of a person who has a beautiful house, and it could even be to the point where I hate on that person because they have that nice car, they have that nice house, or they have these kids or whatever. It's then I'm putting myself in a box where I'm saying that, well, they're doing this, but I can never do that. Therefore, or I can't do that, or I wasn't. And then you start making all of the mental acrobatic gymnastics to justify why that person's wrong for having done that very often, and
then you come to the arrogance part.
that's
Oh yeah,
right.
but they have the house, but
Exactly. That's the
I'm
loop.
serving society. I'm having a low wage to be a nurse or I suffer.
Yeah.
So this other can thrive. Like you do that.
But there you see something very important. Now, you think that inside you have warring factions, that you have self-hate and you have all of this other stuff, right? But you actually don't really have self-hate. Now think about this. What you have is aspects of your personality that are actually trying to save your life. So if you're envious of another person because of what they have and you have low self-esteem, that means that you're dying every time you think about it, right? Because you're thinking, oh, they're so much better than me. They're such a better place than me. I can never be like that. So you don't completely die. What happens? Your personality throws a little bit of arrogance in there so that you can devaluate them so that you can actually survive. So it's actually a survival strategy, because, you know, in the wild and survival in the group, are you better or worse if you're completely destroyed as a human being? Worse, right? So that your internal survival mechanisms, which unfortunately are not always healthy, but they're in that moment maybe necessary to save you from having the big ego death, realizing that, okay, I'm just shit and nobody else should be with me because I'm just totally nothing and everybody else is so much. Then your arrogance is going to pop up and say, hey, bro, you know you're better than everybody else some way. Come on. Here, listen to me. Here, let me put my hand around your shoulders. Let's sit down and let's talk about, okay, that he does this and that, and he's wrong this way and that 5 ways. And, oh, and look at that pimple. And, oh, you don't have any pimples today. You're doing good. You know, whatever. So it's not really actually self-hate. It's wrong to call it something other than a survival strategy. And that's why it's so important to have compassion for people who are having these negative behaviors, because they're actually just trying to survive, right?
It's a hard life.
That's a hard life. It's a hard life. And when we're asleep, we don't even know we're doing it. That's the problem. And then that's why I say the quality of your life is dependent on the quality of the questions you ask, because your awareness of things, how awake you are, determines how powerful you are and how much you can create, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you becoming aware of this whole arrogance strategy is amazing. And that's what I'd like to call it, an arrogance strategy. But now you want to have a confidence strategy.
Yes.
Right? That's it. So what if every single time you did a technique, every single time you stepped on the mat, that you gave yourself the gift of allowing your confidence to grow, knowing that it doesn't matter that, oh, maybe other people are stepping on the mat more or doing more repetitions than you. Maybe they're not doing the right repetitions. You have no idea what they're doing. You cannot control what's outside you anyway. So you're just wasting time focusing on that shit. Yeah, right?
But like you say, like you are building our website now for the integrated human, and you're building it from scratch, and you don't have any education. So to expect yourself to be able to make the same website that Tony Robbins have in a week, how is that possible? You don't even know how to code yet. So instead of being arrogant around it and said, oh, this is not for me, I can't do it, look at it as when you fix it, because you fix everything. I give you a problem very often. I said, I need this or I need that, and you go, and like a week later it's fixed. And then you should use that as confidence, because it's problem solving. I did that.
You walked in like a cowboy.
But then the problem arises that it took me a week. I should have done this faster.
I could never have done it. Jason could for sure never have done it. Right?
Hallelujah.
So you have to think about that. It takes some time.
Yes.
And you should have done and that is only you putting that in on yourself. I often give you a time limit. I need it by this week or at the end of this month. But you don't hack that thing every day either. So how can you then expect it to be done in less time? It goes as fast as it goes, and you solve it. You should go, yes, problem solving under pressure. Done. Next one.
Yeah, it's amazing what you're able to accomplish. It's amazing.
But it's because that was the whole Kickstarter of this, was the fact that we had another project where I was going to take over the website, and I showed you guys, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Like, I've never worked with this. Like, look at this. And you guys just sat there and were like, man, that's so impressive. Like, I have no clue what you're doing here, but you're doing good. You know that, right? And I'm like, no, because I don't know this and this and this. And you guys went like, yeah, but you do know this and you do know this and you fixed that already. I'm like, huh, I actually kind of know what I'm doing here. And then now, year and a half later, like, where we started our second project, second website, and it's going better than ever. But just the fact that me pushing myself down didn't get me anywhere, but you guys being my peer group going, yeah, but look at what you're actually doing correct. Look at the amazing parts of what you're doing. Kickstarted the whole thing for me. Like, I'm really enjoying working on the website now, because I know even if I make a mistake, you guys will go like, don't do it next time.
And Rutger is getting referrals. Rutger's getting a reputation for being excellent, and he is getting more and more work that way. And that's helping that you're doing that spontaneously by filling up your place. That's it. You know, with the idea of just filling up your place. And now here's the thing. How can you expect to fill up your place when you just got there? You don't even know the edges. You don't even know the territory. You don't know the boundaries. You have to figure out, okay, if you want to invade France, you have to figure out where France is and where the border is, right? Like, how far do I have to march to get to the other side of France? You understand what I'm saying? So to fill up your present place, which then is the key to stepping into a larger place, right? And you have to do that one step at a time, or else you extend yourself too much and you get wrecked. World War II, hashtag, right? So I really love that. So how can you expect yourself to know everything and fill it up instantly? You can't. It's a process of evolution. Even the universe has to evolve. Even the universe has to obey entropy. Even the universe has to put energy into taking steps forward. Yes or no?
Yes.
That's it. So why wouldn't you?
But I think that's the thing, to build that confidence. You have to, first of all, you have to be aware that you have confidence and arrogance. So that's the first step. And if you can't look at that, start looking at that, because you need to separate and understand you have both. But you can't expect yourself to be a black belt in something when you just started. Like Eirik, he just started as a chiropractor in Bergen. But then he expects to be like Jason, that's been a chiropractor for over 25 years. And although we want him to be that and have the same thinking and feeling with his patients and be as caring and loving and all, and have the techniques, how many adjustments do you have in your hands?
I don't even have a number right now. I would say not exaggerating, I would probably say over I would say probably over 100,000.
It has to be more, much
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
Because if you
So
have 28,
I need a few more.
yeah, need a few more.
Yeah,
But there's a point,
over
because
28,000
if your
different
bank of patients have more than 28,000 patients,
Yeah.
and you adjust that patient at least with one adjustment.
Yeah.
At least when I go in, like, because I'm always a little bit banged up after training.
Yeah, exactly.
I have like
yeah, it's thousands.
5 to 15
yeah.
things that needs to get crooked back again, because I'm fighting guys at 100 kilos.
Yeah.
So that's like you have to touch actually soon 1 million adjustments.
Yeah, that's
actually when you think
possible.
about it.
Yeah.
And then you have a guy that just comes out from school that wants to be like the one that has 1 million adjustments in his hands, which is a great goal. It's kind of the one that you want to strive to be. But that you can't have that now. You've been owning a practice for 6 months.
Exactly. And
Sorry. But that's just a very important point, because you get out of school and like, I'm ready. I'm gonna work now.
I know this shit.
And I know, like, okay, I want to be like Jason, right? So you start off, and then like you keep comparing yourself all the time. Yeah. So what advice would you have to get more conscious of not putting yourself down, when you're not being Jason?
That's a great question, because first of all, I would like to say that not only do you have great hands and you're an excellent chiropractor, you are probably, after 6 months, a year in practice, where I was after 5 years. So your acceleration is excellent. And having people who you use as a role model, I'm very honored. I'm very honored that you would choose me as a role model or somebody to follow. And I take that very seriously as a mentor. There's a paradox. And the paradox is this, that you need something to strive after. But at the same time, comparison from the point of view of looking at what you're missing will break your self-esteem. Comparison with the focus of what you're gaining each day and that you're getting closer and closer to your mentor, idol, or your goal is building your energy. And again, it's in a way self-esteem and or confidence, self-love issue. Now, I don't really like to talk about loving yourself because most people don't even really understand what love means. You know, we have to have a podcast about that in a while. But for you to look at the movements forward that you're making in the direction of my practice, for example, or the way I adjust or whatever, again, is a compliment to me, but that's the way you need to focus. What steps forward? I remember I was taking over instructing my jiu-jitsu class. Now I run a jiu-jitsu gym and you guys are my athletes as well, so you know. And I remember thinking, wow, you know, I'm a blue belt and I'm taking responsibility for a group of people, and my black belt is so much better than me. I feel embarrassed even showing techniques, even basic techniques, because he's always going to have 17 more details and he's always going to have 35 more insights, and he's going to be doing it so much better because he started this as a child and I started jiu-jitsu as I'm a good athlete, you know. But at the same time, I didn't start jiu-jitsu as a child, so my movement pattern, my flexibility, and all this, it can't even compare to the guy that taught me. So how am I worthy to transfer information and transfer the joy of jiu-jitsu to everybody? And he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, remember, 60% is still better than 0%. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, you don't feel like you can give 100% of the jiu-jitsu that I give. That's okay, because these guys probably only can take 20% and you're giving 60%. So 60% is better than 0%. So if you weren't here, nobody would be getting help. So at that moment, I realized, I can be looking at what I'm filling up instead of what I'm not giving. And weirdly enough, it was true. I always have 7 more details than anybody can take in any training, right? Because I've taken it so seriously. I've taken it so seriously to be an instructor, you know. And when I say this, again, the paradox is, look at what you're achieving. Look at how you're evolving and growing. Don't look at what's missing. At the same time, realize that you want to fill up your box, your space. Meaning that if I'm taking responsibility, ability to respond for being the instructor, then what is my need for understanding and learning? It's very high, right? So do you know any of you guys ever seen anybody own as many jiu-jitsu videos as I do?
I don't have one single.
Yeah, you don't need one, right?
I don't need one. I have you just ask you a question like, what do I do here? And you go, I'm like, okay. I don't have to study because you've done it for me.
I've meditated on the minds of all of the great jiu-jitsu players from the 80s and up. Anytime there's a video on these guys, or I watch all the fights and I see all the instructionals, and I do that and I compare and I cook it down, because I'm obsessed with filling up my spot, and I know you are. So you should give yourself the love and appreciation, because that's where the energy to continue to study and evolve comes from. So if you're constantly looking at how shit you are, how you're not like Michael Jordan when you play basketball, you know, there are people like, yeah, but you know, I give myself a hard time, therefore I work harder. That actually never lasts in the long run. It never lasts in the long run. You have to love what you do. It has to be a passion for you. And if every single day you go into your clinic and you're feeling less worth, right? Oh, I could have been like this, but I'm not like that. or instead of, hey, I'm 5 years ahead of Jason was when he was in practice at this point. Sucker, you know, and
Thank
keep
you.
working that way.
Mm.
And
So I
then you
think-
have to make that a confident thing and not an arrogant thing.
Yes.
So you have to go, this fun and drive.
Yes,
But you
exactly.
can't go, oh my, I'm so much better because I'm doing this. So you have to, it's kind of a very, it's a balanced thing you have to figure out.
Yeah.
Because you have to be, I think it has to do with how you fuel it.
Yes, it
If
is.
you fuel it with drive and confidence, you can say it. And that's why in jiu-jitsu, people rip their gi off. I think most of them do it because of arrogance. But
Yeah.
No,
You
because
can-
of their six packs, Marit.
They do have very
Yeah.
nice six packs.
maybe, but they do that. And if you do that with confidence, like I won the world championship, it's fueled with so much more than if you do it to kind of look down on the other person and show him that you're so much better. So I think it has to do with how you fuel it. And another thing is that when you look at other people and what they have, I feel often we don't look at where we are and we don't understand the process they've been through. It was not like Jason all of a sudden had 1 million of adjustments in his hand or had 28,000 patients he had helped. It's not how it works. He started with one, with a black belt, with a Tony Robbins didn't start with that website, for instance. The guy that built Tony Robbins' website didn't start with building that the first day. So we kind of we see the end result because we can only see what's in the outside.
Exactly.
I don't know what process other people are going through,
What sacrifices?
what sacrifices they
Yeah.
made. And the more present you are, the more you can see and you
Yeah.
have more compassion for them.
And
But
appreciation.
appreciation and you kind of understand them more and you love them more. And that's when you come into the whole unconditional love thing, which we come back to in the other
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
But I think that's the thing, because we look at the end result, because that's what we can see. Like, I've never seen you as a white belt. I've barely seen you as a blue belt.
Yeah.
Barely. You wore a blue belt for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But then you
Yeah.
won one championship and became purple.
Yeah.
I've never seen you have any other office as a chiropractor than this one, which
Yeah.
is the most beautiful chiropractic office you can get. If people, it's insane. But I didn't see where you started. You started in a shit place. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't good.
Yeah.
And we don't see that.
Yeah.
You don't see where people start. You don't see where the black belt started. You don't see where the broker that's now a multimillionaire started. You don't see where Michael Jordan started.
No, exactly.
You don't see that. We just see the glory they have now
Yes.
or have had.
We see the Instagram highlight of their life. We
Yeah.
see, and we don't see what's behind all of that, you know?
And then we expect ourselves to have that in one day.
Yeah. People watch highlight reels and they think that's life.
And-
That's
and-
not life.
And then you get arrogant and you push people down because you understand, I cannot make that happen in a day.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then
He
I'm
probably
not.
cheated.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
He
Yeah.
cheated.
yeah,
Of
yeah,
course
yeah.
he did. Or he had it simple.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
they
He
were
was given that.
They were given that. Or they're so fortunate or so lucky.
Yeah.
I'm never lucky like that.
Yeah.
Well, they made sacrifices since they were 15
Yeah.
to save the money, to not buy cars they don't need, to not go on vacation they don't need. They prioritize to study. Like, they made so many sacrifices.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you made other sacrifices, but you have to live with yourself here.
Exactly.
You have to own it. And I think if you own it, own yourself, it's much better or much easier to start to build the confidence instead of the arrogance.
Yeah.
So how can you avoid being caught in this sort of trap? Because I hear a lot about Eirik and we talk a lot, and I just hear good things about him as a chiropractor. Like, he was way ahead in school. Like, he was getting good help from you guys. He became a business owner in a year, which they actually gave him, like, they offered you.
It shouldn't happen.
Yeah,
It shouldn't happen. That's the thing. Well,
You're the
offered-
exception where it can happen.
Exactly.
And they're very
in
happy
Norway,
with
has
it.
to be said, in Norway that doesn't happen.
No.
Yeah,
It
no,
could
no.
be another countries.
He wasn't
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
full
he was-
chiropractor yet when they offered him a piece of the business.
A piece of a very successful practice. So it was definitely based on the quality of human
Yes.
being that he is and the quality of chiropractor that he is.
So how do you avoid? Because he has such a head start. He has such good momentum, and it's kind of we started teaching kids class now, and it's so unfair in a way to see how these kids just pick up stuff. And it's very interesting because I remember starting playing Spider Guard, and if I would do that now, I would be ashamed. Like it's bad when I first started, but because I've been working with it, it became better and better and better. But some of these kids already have it.
Yeah.
They're already making the right adjustments, doing the right movements. So how do you not get caught in that trap of, I had such a head start, like my physical talent, my study and the person who I am gave me such a boost in the beginning that when you're still going forward, but you're not making the leaps that you were making beforehand, how do you not get caught in a downward spiral going like, yeah, it's not working. I normally make 10 steps forward in a day, and now I'm doing 1. Well, because you're still moving forward.
Yeah, that's such a good question, because that's actually the mechanism of becoming a gambling addicted person. Because what
Do not start with gambling.
Yes.
No.
I know.
Because
give me your wallet.
research shows that in Las Vegas, if you win something, especially if it's 2-3 times what you invested, the first 1, 2, or 3 times you gamble, the chances that you become addicted to gambling the rest of your life is like 90%, because you're always looking for that hit. We are constantly looking for a large relative change in our reality that's pleasurable. I'm going to repeat that. A large relative change in our reality, right? So our nervous system is a relativity machine. For example, if you go outside and it's winter and you start throwing snowballs with your hands with no gloves on, right? Your hands get cold. And you go inside and you put your hands in cool water. It burns, because the difference between the frozen water and the difference between the cool water is so large that it burns your hands. Your nervous system tells you about the relative change in your life that is pleasurable. So how do you continue with something after you've got this big rush and big hit? Well, very often you will continue because you have such a sense of identity. You have such a sense of feeling at home and feeling good with something that you've had lots of success with, that you will almost always come back to it at some point. So you won't sabotage yourself, though you'll still be looking for other ways to get that big relative change in your life that's pleasurable, right? And that's why people start different businesses, and maybe they start drinking alcohol. They do other things to get that rush. Timothy Leary and Ram Dass, who wrote the book Be Here Now, they talked about that all humans have a need to get high. And the word high can be many things. It can be high on adrenaline. It can be high on success. It can be high on love. Some people are like constantly they're constantly falling in love with different people because that rush of being in love is so intoxicating. Some people are looking to get through their week, to get to Friday so they can get drunk. Wow, that's the party for them, even though there's consequences to getting that high, right? Some people do their meditation. Other people go to the gym and you look in the eyes of a person who's really pumping super hard. They're high as they can be on endorphins and everything, right? We're looking for that hit. Oh, yeah. What did he say? I feel sorry for you because you only have one way to have an orgasm, but I have an orgasm every time I work out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
Such a guy thing to say.
Oh
my God.
Right?
Oh.
Yes, but you have to put a little bit of Arnold on it, and then it becomes awesome. Right? Right?
No.
Yeah, so how do you not get... Very often, we will search for different ways to have that hit. That's just what it is. So you're touching on something very important there. When you understand that you will need that, you can then channel that to different things, like picking up new hobbies and trying different things. I mean, you should see the number of instruments that I have in my house and different things that I have in my house that I've tried and that I get very good at to a certain point. Then I realize, okay, to get better, I have to give up my job as a chiropractor, or I have to give up my job as a sensei in the dojo, or I have to make the step. You know, I got to the point in chess where I'm like, okay, now I'm competing and winning. But if I want to really go big and I want to start living from this, I'm going to have to give up my practice, because this is just not, you know, the demand on me is so high. So I do new things to get that hit. Yeah.
But I was thinking about, because we have a kids class in jiu-jitsu. And we have these beautiful kids, and they are between 9 and 16. And they're so young, and they can just move because they have that in them. And they get big improvements. And you also did that. You see it when you get a white belt in something, or you start something. If it's a website or whatever, the relative change is pretty big, pretty fast, because you don't know anything. But what I find, especially in jiu-jitsu and at work, is that the more good you become, the smaller the improvements are, but the more important they are. The more they matter. The more they make you excellent and not just good. So I feel like the change I'm making myself in my jiu-jitsu and in work is they're not big. They're not like, I'm now able to move my hip 10 centimeters because I couldn't move at all before, or I'm not managing to do this much more efficient than I did before. But it's micro adjustments, and you get better and better at the micro adjustments in life. And I think if you look at those and the small wins, you will find them everywhere. And it's just that's not that obvious anymore, because you know spider girder, you know how to do your job, and you know how to fold laundry, you know that stuff. But it's the micro adjustments. If you try to find them, you will see you're improving just as much, and the improvements matter more.
Yeah, the micro changes and micro evolution in every thing that you're doing is really the difference between, like what Marit says, is good and excellent. You know, I remember once hearing that the difference between bad and good is, you know, it's 1,000,000 miles, but the difference between good and excellent is like 2 centimeters, right? The difference between the best person and the fifth best person is it's a nuance, right? And having love for those nuance building processes. And I think you see that also when you're laying down the map of a new activity, or laying the map. You know, it's really easy to kind of orient yourself and get the big chunks done. But what Marit said there was really important, because as your eyes open as an expert, and this is really the expert eye, you realize that it is the process of really gathering those details and putting them together that is excellence. And it's kind of like, I like to think about it. The first one is on a horizontal plane, and the other one's depth, right? And I was training with Eduardo Tatarios, for example, and he can look at how you roll and tell you how you train. Like, he can just see, I can look at a person doing hip escapes in jiu-jitsu and tell you how long they've been doing jiu-jitsu. I know how good they are, how long they've been working, just by those micro adjustments, you know. And when you look at Marit move now, it's insane. Like, the micro adjustments there are just it's a whole nother level. And it's not like she has to learn more technique. It's about going deeper in the techniques that she has. Again, we were talking about 17 details. You know, like my sensei had 17 details on this technique, and I had 7, right? Well, if I have 3 more than the next person, it's still the same technique, but I win I win that position every time because I have those 3 extra details, right? So I what you said there was genius. That's correct.
And I think also, because you can look at the kids that trains, or you can, if you are you work as a swimming guard, right? You can look at people coming in, and you can look, that could be more efficient, that could be more efficient, that could be more efficient. If you do that, you'll be done in half the time. You're not doing that right enough. Like, you can also, when you're good at something, you can learn so much more from looking at other people. You look at someone that's highly efficient or something, or a beginner, you can pick so much more. So that's also a win. And then you can look at it, so you're actually getting a free repetition. because you're looking at someone doing something that's either excellent, so you can go, I have not done that, I need to do that, or that you can see that should be done like that to be, if you do that, oh, it's going to be beautiful. So then you're actually getting free repetitions. So you don't have to do them yourself. You can look at other people. So that way you can learn more and more instead of less and less. You will perhaps not feel the big improvement, but then that way you're going to win and win and win and win and learn and learn and learn and evolve.
Yeah.
But it might be good to take a break maybe and like step back and do exactly that, right? Because this doesn't happen consciously necessarily, right? So actually just taking a break and looking at what you're doing better in the last year or month or even last week.
I like that.
Know?
Yeah, that's good. Like date yourself.
Yep.
Take a break. We talked a little bit about that in the Integrated Human webinar the other day. It's like a guy was like, well, everything seems like a priority, so I have a hard time sorting. How do I prioritize my life? And I said, take a self-date. Take a break, look at yourself, reflect on what you're doing. And, you know, I like what you said there because it's about bringing that awareness there. And, you know, the Buddhists always talk about, I love this thing. I remind myself constantly over this, that, you know, you're someplace, you're walking and then suddenly you're in this dark place and you're stuck and you don't know what it is. And then you thrash around for a while and then suddenly you're out and you're walking again and you're like, okay. And then suddenly you're back in this place, but you're like, oh, I've been here before and I got out, so I'm not panicked, but now I have to try to figure out what it is. And you realize, I'm in a ditch. Oh, okay. So you realize, okay, I'm in a ditch. So you climb out of there and it takes a while. And then you're walking again and you fall again. And then you're in this ditch and you're like, you recognize the ditch. You recognize that you have to climb out and then you do it. And then the next time you fall into the ditch, you pop right out because you know what it is. You know how to get out of it. You're not stressed. You just do the job and go. And then the last time you walk around the ditch. So it's kind of like becoming aware of the arrogance, becoming aware of the lack of confidence, becoming aware every time that you're like, I'm in this situation again. Situation, fix. Situation, fix. And then suddenly you avoid that situation. You feel it starting to come up and you're like, meh. Nah, that's so 1990s. No way, you know. Like,
that's the beginner to master.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you always, we're gonna come back to exactly this for the next 10,000 episodes here. You have to come back to yourself. You have to first start being conscious, and we're not. And that's why that question we started with today is so beautiful, because that's the most precise question you had about confidence and arrogance. And when you start to ask yourself those questions and really are willing to look at it, that's when you're going to make the difference. And it doesn't matter where you start, if it's arrogance and confidence, or if it's accepting where you are at. But doing that work, instead of just existing, that's what you need to do. You have to start there.
Exactly. And, you know, we'll come back to these themes and topics over time. I've had the joy and pleasure of working with athletes and also performers in business and relationship and all of that, and done a lot of work on myself in this. So I'm talking basically because I've had to work with my own arrogance. I've had to work with my own lack of confidence. I've had to work through all of these things in order to perform better in my life. So it's not like, you know, you never had that, therefore you must know something about it. You know, it's more like, okay, have you actually done that work? Have you made the mistakes? And I've made all the mistakes. And it's my great pleasure if I can share any of that insight with you. It's super, super cool. And thank you so much for the question.
Thank you for taking your time to respond to it.
Oh, man. I love it. You guys are awesome. So I'd like to thank you guys for coming to Big
And small.
and talking to us. And I really appreciate you, Dr. Eirik. And I hope that you guys come back often and Rutger, amazing job.
Thank you for the answers.
Well, we hang out every day, so the chance is very high.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing.
It's basically recording. This podcast basically are recording our everyday talks.
Yeah, that's true.
We talk, if we have a microphone or not, this is the subject we talk about and discuss, and we come around to anyway. So
yeah, self-evolution, because anywhere you are, there you are. Whatever you're doing, you're at least part of it, right?
At least 50%.
At least 50%.
That's why we're so lucky. So we're actually getting an education here now. Me and Rutger getting to ask questions.
Well, I'm learning every time, so.
Yeah, me too. Well, this is Jason Shields signing off, and remember that you matter. Unless, of course, you multiply yourself by the speed of light squared, and then your energy. But if you can't be energy, matter.